All right, guys, what's going on? All my people out there today. So today, what I'm doing is Friday. I just got my trigger enhancement for my Glock 23 Gen 4. So I've got it all apart, and basically what I'm doing, this was the factory trigger bar. The gentleman I bought the gun off of, the gun shop, he put this Ghost 3.5 Ultimate, Ghost 3.5 trigger in there. And it was definitely better, but still didn't give me the results I desired. So I went ahead and ordered this Ghost Evo Elite, which is this trigger bar right here. And I'm going to put that in. And we're also going to change the 6-pound trigger spring and the plunger spring in the slide. Not going to do anything with the firing pin springs. I don't think there's ever been a problem with the Glock firing. So that being said, that's what we're doing today. I've already got it apart. If you'd like to see how to take it apart, put it in the comments below, and I'll do a detailed, as detailed as I can do it to take it down. What you will need to do this at minimum, obviously, is the Ghost Evo Elite trigger bar. Make note that this trigger bar is not drop-in. It will need to be modified. If you're not comfortable doing that, I would recommend taking it to your gun shop or gunsmith. The only thing I will say about the modification of it, this is your trigger block right here for your Glock. This Ghost 3.5 trigger, it's just drop-in. So it just goes in like so. And basically this will go in and fold around. And basically what happens is this, when you pull the trigger, let me just slide it in there real quick. When you actually are pulling the trigger, it comes back and hits this little ramp. And on a Glock, they call this the crucible or whatever. I'm, for generalization, going to call it the sear. That's ultimately what it is. When you pull it back, it slides down, goes down that ramp and drops. Firing pin is released, and bada bing, bada bang, you've got something flying out the barrel. And when you do the Evo, which is this one, and you put it in, you'll notice that you're going to have to actually file some of this down. And the reason being is what this trigger bar does is gets rid of post travel. So after the trigger is filed, dropped, and the actual sear drops, there's no more trigger travel. This actually hits it and stops it. So you do need to modify that. So you will need to take your gun apart a few times to custom fit it. Before we do any of that, we are going to go ahead and polish this. And to do that, I've got my little Dremel out here. I've got some polishing compound. I've got my Dremel, and that's really all you need. You could probably actually do it by hand too, but I'm going to go ahead and polish the entire trigger bar because that's what I want to do. You don't have to. You can just polish the contact points if you want. Polishing it does not reduce the trigger pull. It just makes it a smoother trigger pull. There's less grit. Anytime something is smooth, they slide together better. That being said, that's what we're going to do, and that's where I'm going to start. In order to do that, it's very simple. Just take a cap off your polish, and gonna just turn it on. Get a little bit of polish on that bad boy. That's probably actually too much, but whatever. And we're gonna turn it on. Now I'm going to stop just for a moment. Normally I wouldn't, but for the video purposes, I'm going to stop. Just going to wipe that off. Now, that was all, what, 15 seconds? I'm not done yet. But look at the difference you have from here to, I mean, that's how it comes from the factory. This to that. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is you're going to do this all over the trigger bar, front, back, however you want to do it. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. Once that's complete, I'll go ahead and cut the video back on, and we'll continue on. But for the sake of keeping the video to the proper length and all that, I'm going to go ahead and finish polishing this the same way, dip it in a little more compound, and go over the entire trigger and get it all polished up, and then we'll cut the video back on and we'll get it going. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause this, and we'll be starting back in a minute. But just look at the difference in 30 seconds. So give me just a few minutes and we'll start back up. Alright guys, so as you can see, in real time that took me probably 4 or 5 minutes to polish this up, using just the Dremel tool. I'm going to go over it one more time and put a high polish on it, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I finished polishing this part, and that's your end product. As you can definitely see, everything's polished and ready to go. So we're going to set that to the side, and now what we're going to need to do is fit this thing. This comes polished already, so you don't have to do that. However, I would recommend after you're going to actually have to, like I said, file this portion down some. So after you do that, you're going to want to take any burrs off or anything and smooth it out, and you can do that as well with your Dremel tool. So let me get set up for that, and we'll continue on with the video. Alright guys, so now that we had it polished and everything, what we're doing here is taking a file, and we're actually filing down this flat surface right here. So we're taking material away. And how I'm doing that, you can use a Dremel. I have one right out, as you saw, but just to take a little off at a time, what I'm doing is just rubbing it on this file like so, keeping it flat. Just like that. And as I'm doing it, I'm just making sure that I'm holding this flat to this surface. And move it up and down like so. And then trying to actually fit it into the gun. Now, when you put this back in like so, that'll go in. And now we have our Glock bar polished. So you just kind of put it in an angle there and kind of finagle it in like so. And you're going to have some space in there. Shouldn't be sticking out way too far, but it is spring steel, so you do want it sticking out. That's how the trigger resets itself. So when you push it in a little bit and you go back, like on mine, you can see this is stage 1 of the trigger, and as it goes, it drops down into there. Well, I know I need to go down just a little bit farther before I try to fit this in the gun, because otherwise it's not going to work. I know it's not going to fire, just an experience. So we'll set this to the side, pop this bad boy right back out, and we'll file off a little more, just like I was doing, like this. I'm going to cut the video so I can keep the video under about 15 minutes, hopefully. And once I get back to this and going to reassemble it, I'll go ahead and restart the video. That way you can all see what's going on. So let me pause this for a minute and we'll get right back to it. Alright, so I've got everything out the way I want it. I've got the Glock Armor's rear plate in the back so that I can make this fire if need be, if it's still too tight. So we'll set that to the side, and then what we will do is put our little piece in here, and this is just fitting for dry, if you will. Like if this works, then we'll take it back apart and clean everything up and make it right. You do have to do this a couple times sometimes, so patience is something you will need. Make sure that you have your spring also in there the right way. That's important. Just FYI. And then you got to roll this back together like a so. And if you squeeze this tight, you can see this is how it'll sit in the pistol, and you can see how much more space is up there. So I can almost guarantee, and it is hard to squeeze, so you're gonna have to squeeze it pretty good. Squeeze this flush as it would be in the gun, and I can see just right there that's not off stage 1 of the trigger, so I still need to file more off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. No point in wasting time. So I'm going to file more off, and then we'll come back and try again. Because I know I've got to take a good bit off, I'm actually going to go ahead and just sand this down, because it'll be a lot quicker to get it to where I need it to be, and then we'll file fit it to where it needs to actually be. So we're still in there. We're just going to sand it down with this for noise purposes and all that. I'm going to do that, and then we'll go ahead and file it the remainder of the way. And this is actually what's happening when you're doing this. And just filing that down. We got a good bit off. You want to keep that, I will file it perfectly straight. Once I get it close, it's pretty close to straight, and I'll finish that off and smooth it out. So we're going to try to fit it again and see where we're at. Alright, so now that I've got it filed down and put it back in the trigger block, we'll squeeze it back as it would sit. And now you can see it's actually down in stage 2. So now we'll actually put it in the gun and see where we're at. So let's give it a try and we'll start the video back up. Alright, so after the gun is reassembled, you can see somehow I actually got that right on the money. When you rack the gun and it's reset, break, reset, break. There's no movement after that break at all. Nothing. Reset, break. Reset, break. Reset, break. And that's what I want. There's no further sanding or filing actually required, other than we're going to polish up that spot that we filed. So quick and easy way, grab your Glock like so, pull it back, both sides, slide it, boom, take the slide. We can set this off. Just move our barrel and all that out the way. And if you don't know, Glocks come apart relatively easy. You just use your, sorry about that, just use your armor tool and push out the one pin here. Boom. That pin's out. This pin there, pop it out, and then the one right below it. And if it gives you a fit when you're trying to pop this big one out, just wiggle your slide lock. It'll come out. It's hard to do right on. Let me set this down and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I got it out correctly, it's easier to do. Then all you got to do is just pull your lock block out like so. This is pretty much a brand new gun, so it's still tight. Pop out your trigger, your little slide lock, boom, and pop out your trigger group. And I'm going to go ahead and just polish up that spot that I filed and put it back together, and let's see what we come up with. Alright guys, so I took it all back apart as I said I was going to. This is actually good and flush, and I went ahead and just used my Dremel and my polishing wheel and polishing compound to polish this all back up and make sure it was all smooth. And I also went ahead here and like I was doing right now, is just taking this and I just gave that a quick polish like so. It got the normal stuff off, and this is also the stock Glock trigger spring, and I also swapped that out for the 6-pound quick reset trigger spring from Ghost. So we're going to go ahead and slap that bad boy on up in there and just hook it on like so, and plop that bad boy like so, and fold it on in. It is a stiffer spring on the trigger, so it will be a little more tedious to tighten up. So there's that. So with this portion here, we are completely done. I don't need to do anything else with this. So what I can do is simply set this back into the frame, trigger first, and just slide that down like so. And that part is absolutely complete. And then you just put your things back in like so, and you're going to put all your pins back in, obviously in the order that you did and your slide safety. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and we'll put it back together. Go ahead and just restart this for a moment, and we're going to stick our barrel and our recoil spring back in just for a testing again. And I do that because now that you got a different spring in, I feel like, I mean, that's right on there. Drop the Glock right on the file. At least it didn't hit nothing. So it's pretty much on the money. I don't know if I want to take any more or what I want to do. Play with it for a little bit, see, make sure it does not have any misfires or failure to fire, and then I'll start the video and we'll finish it up. Alright, well, I got it back together again with the Ghost spring, and got it right where I wanted it. I had to file it down just a little more. As you can see right now, very minimal trigger pull, break, reset, quick reset, break. So that's how your trigger should be. Good, very minimal travel there either, and wall, break. So now what I'm going to do is put the Plunger safety spring. I'm going to put a lighter spring on that, and I'll see how it goes. I'll be back when I get it apart and show you what it is. So this is actually what we're changing. This is your plunger piece. I'm going to actually polish this up as well, and this is the factory spring, pretty substantially stiff, and this one's a little bit lighter, and it allows for easier trigger. That ought to give me the trigger pull I want. So I'm going to save these, obviously, the factory ones. That just pops out like so. We'll set our factory springs in our little bag and keep them in case we ever want it. So I'm going to polish this real quick and we'll put it back together and see what we got. And you polish this the same way you did everything else. Alright, so now you can see, hopefully you could see, put a good polish on this. And now we'll put our lighter spring in and see what we got. Put it back together and we'll bring y'all back. Alright, so we put the lighter plunger spring in and got that done. This is a 6-pound striker fire spring. Stock is 5.5 and Target they offer a 4.5. I would not use the 4.5 because I don't want to have a failure. So I'm going to try it with both and we'll let you know what I went up with. So when you disassemble this, you want to pull the spring back, and there are 2 half shoes, if you will, as you can see, and you need to let them just fall. And these are what the shoes look like. And you want to make sure that when you reinstall it, these go together, and that's what captures the spring onto the firing pin. Let me put this back on with the new spring and we'll give it a shot. Alright, so I've recaptured it. Again, keeping the stock spring just in case I don't like it or there are any funny things. This is the 6-pound spring. We're going to reinstall it, see how it fires, and if I don't like it, then I'll go ahead and put the stock striker spring back on. We'll see how it goes. Give me just a minute. Trying to keep the video short. It's already 30 minutes because I'm trying not to cut anything, but I don't want to make an hour-long video. Alright, so I got it back on everything. Got the 6-pound trigger spring in. Rack the slide. And I see that right there we have a little issue with the safety, so I have to fix that real quick. But other than that, that's how you put in. As you can see, absolutely no over travel after the brake. That's all the travel. Resets, good reset on it. Re-brake and you're good to go. So good there. So happy with that. That's how you modify the trigger on a Glock, or if you want, you can adjust the trigger. I'm also going to go ahead and file this thing flush because it's just aggravating as hell. But other than that, you got what should be a very solid performing gun with a much better trigger than stock. So I would definitely recommend this Evo Elite 3.5 trigger. It's a good trigger. Check it out. It's a good price, like $40. So check it out. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Please like, subscribe, share, comment if you got questions or if you need details on something, and I'll try to make a quicker video for it. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.